The sun beat down on the cracked sidewalk as Beatrice Johnson stood at the bus stop. She was 78 years old with gray hair tied neatly in a bun. Her hands were wrinkled but strong as they held two paper grocery bags. Beatrice had lived in this neighborhood for most of her life. She knew every street and every face. She wore a simple blue dress and comfortable shoes. Her back was straight despite her age. The number 42 bus was late again. Beatrice sighed and shifted her weight from one foot to the other. The bags were getting heavy. Inside them were basic items: bread, milk, canned soup, things she needed for the week ahead. She glanced down the empty street. No bus in sight. The peace of the afternoon broke when she heard them. First came the rumble. Then came the roar. 5 motorcycles turned the corner. They moved like angry metal beasts. The riders wore black leather vests with patches. They had long beards and tattoos. The one in front had a red bandana tied around his head. People on the street moved out of their way. A mother pulled her child closer. An old man crossed to the other side. Beatrice just stood still and watched them come. The bikes pulled up to the curb right next to the bus stop. The leader turned off his engine. The others did the same. Suddenly, the street seemed very quiet. The leader looked at Beatrice. His eyes moved from her gray hair to her worn shoes. Then he smiled. It was not a nice smile. "Well, look what we have here, boys," he said. His voice was rough like gravel. "Granny out for a little shopping trip." The other bikers laughed. One of them made a show of hunching over and walking with a pretend cane. "Need some help with those bags, old lady?" Another one asked. He had a snake tattoo on his neck. They looked mighty heavy. Beatrice looked at them calmly. Her face showed no fear. "No, thank you," she said. Her voice was soft but clear. This seemed to amuse them even more. The leader got off his bike and walked closer to her. He stood very tall over Beatrice. His shadow fell across her face. "You sure about that? Little thing like you might hurt yourself." He reached for one of her bags. "I said no thank you." Beatrice pulled the bag away from his hand. Her eyes never left his face. The leader frowned. He was not used to people saying no to him, especially not old ladies who barely came up to his chest. "You know who we are, old lady?" he asked. He turned so she could see the patch on the back of his vest. It showed a skull with wings. Under it were the words "Road Demons." "You boys are making a lot of noise in a quiet neighborhood," Beatrice said. She set her bags down on the bench. "And you are being very rude." The bikers looked at each other in surprise. Then they burst out laughing. "Hear that, boys? We are being rude." The leader slapped his knee. "Well, excuse us, ma'am." He gave a mocking bow. A small crowd began to gather across the street. They watched but kept their distance. No one wanted trouble with the road demons. "This is our turf now," the leader said. He moved even closer to Beatrice. "Maybe you should find somewhere else to wait for your bus." Beatrice did not back away. She looked up at him with clear eyes. "I have been waiting at this bus stop for 50 years, young man. Since before you were born, I expect." The leader narrowed his eyes. He did not like her calm. He did not like that she showed no fear. "Things change, old lady," he said. His voice got lower. "Dangerous. Maybe you need to learn some respect." Beatrice smiled. It was a small smile, but it reached her eyes. "Respect," she said slowly. "Now that is something I know quite a lot about." She reached into her purse. The leader tensed up. But what Beatrice pulled out was not what anyone expected. From her purse, Beatrice pulled out an old leather wallet. It was cracked and worn with age. The leader of the bikers looked confused. He had expected fear from the old woman. Instead, she stood there calmly opening the wallet. Inside the wallet was something metal that caught the sunlight. It was a badge. Not a police badge, but something else. It showed a wheel with wings. The metal was old but still shined in places. "Do you know what this is?" Beatrice asked. Her voice was still calm. The leader squinted at the badge. He shook his head. "Some kind of club pin." "What do I care about your bingo club badge, old lady?" Beatrice laughed. It was a sound that surprised everyone. Her laugh was strong and full of life, not the laugh of a weak old woman. "This is the badge of the Black Thunder Riders," she said. "The first all-black motorcycle club in this state, founded in 1962. The bikers looked at each other. Some of them frowned. The name seemed to mean something to a few of them. "The Black Thunder Riders," one of the bikers in the back said. He had a gray beard and looked older than the others. "My uncle used to talk about them. Said they were the toughest riders he ever knew." The leader looked back and forth between his friend and Beatrice. "So what? What does some old club have to do with you?" Beatrice reached back into her purse. This time she pulled out a faded photograph. She held it up for them to see. The photo showed a group of young black women and men on motorcycles. They all wore leather jackets with the same wing and wheel symbol that was on the badge. In the center of the photo was a young woman on a huge Harley-Davidson. She sat tall and proud on the bike. Her afro hair blew in the wind. Her face was beautiful and fierce. She wore leather pants and a jacket with many patches. "That was me," Beatrice said. She pointed to the woman in the center. "They called me Queen Bee. I was the president of Black Thunder Riders for 20 years. The bikers stared at the photo in shock. They looked at the fierce young woman in the picture. Then they looked at the old woman standing before them. It seemed impossible that they were the same person. "You rode a Harley?" the leader asked. His voice had lost its mocking tone. "A 1957 Panhead," Beatrice said with pride. "Rebuilt the engine myself 3 times. I could take that bike apart and put it back together with my eyes closed." The older biker in the back moved forward. He looked at the photo more closely. Then he looked at Beatrice with wide eyes. "Wait a minute," he said slowly. "Queen Bee? The Queen Bee? The one who rode from here to California in 2 days straight? The one who won the Dead Man's Curve race in 1968? Beatrice smiled. Her eyes lit up with the memory. 3 days, actually. Would have been 2, but we got held up in Texas, and that race was 1969. It was raining that day. Made the curve twice as dangerous." The crowd across the street had grown larger. People were whispering to each other. Someone said, "Is that really Queen Bee?" Another person said, "I thought she was just a legend." A man in the crowd called out, "My daddy said the Black Thunder Riders kept this neighborhood safe back in the day. Said they stood up to the bad folks when no one else would." The leader of the road demons looked around. The situation had changed. The old woman was not what she seemed. He did not know what to do now. "So you used to ride," he said finally. "That was a long time ago. Things are different now." Beatrice shook her head. "Not as different as you think, young man." She put the photo back in her purse. Then she said something that made all the bikers freeze. "And who said I stopped riding?" The leader of the road demons raised his eyebrows. "You still ride? At your age?" Beatrice stood up straighter. "Age is just a number, young man. My hands still know how to grip the handlebars. My eyes still see the road clearly. And my heart still loves the freedom of the wind." The older biker with the gray beard stepped forward. "I heard stories about the Black Thunder Riders. They say you all rode better than most men. They say you helped people when no one else would." Beatrice nodded. "We did what needed doing. This neighborhood was different back then. The police would not come here. Bad men would take advantage. So we protected our own." A woman in the crowd called out, "My grandma told me about you all. Said you escorted kids to school during the hard times. Said you made sure old folks got their medicine when they were afraid to go out." "That was a long time ago," Beatrice said, but her eyes showed she was proud of those memories. The leader of the road demons looked uncomfortable now. He shifted his weight from one foot to the other. The disrespect he had shown earlier was now hanging in the air between them. "Look, lady," he started to say. "We were just having some fun. No harm meant." Beatrice looked at him with clear eyes. "Fun at whose expense? Is that what riding means to you? Scaring people? making them feel small. The leader had no answer. Some of his fellow bikers looked down at their boots. In my day, Beatrice continued, we had respect. For ourselves, for others, for the road. The patches we wore stood for something good. The older biker with the gray beard nodded. My uncle said the same thing. Said things changed when the new groups came in. Said they forgot what it was all about. Just then, an engine sound came from down the street. It was not the bus. It was another motorcycle. But this one sounded different. The engine had a deeper rumble, an older sound. Everyone turned to look. Coming down the street was a classic Harley-Davidson. It was black with silver trim. The chrome parts gleamed in the sun. It was an old model, but it looked brand new. It was being ridden by a man in his 60s. He wore a leather vest with the same wing and wheel symbol that was on Beatrice's badge. The motorcycle pulled up to the bus stop. The rider took off his helmet. He had gray hair cut short and a neatly trimmed beard. He smiled when he saw Beatrice. There you are, Bea, he said. I was wondering where you got to. The others are waiting. Hello, James, Beatrice said with a smile. I got held up talking to these young riders. She nodded toward the road demons. James looked at the bikers. His eyes took in their patches and their motorcycles. He did not look impressed. These boys giving you trouble. Nothing I cannot handle, Beatrice said. The leader of the road demons found his voice. Who are you, old man? James swung his leg off his motorcycle and stood up tall. He was older but still strong. His arms showed muscles from years of riding. Name's James Wilson, Vice President of the Black Thunder Riders. Me and Bea here have been riding these streets for 50 years. The crowd had grown even larger now. People were taking pictures with their phones. Someone said, I told you the Black Thunder Riders were real. My daddy said they still meet up. James turned to Beatrice. You ready to go? Everyone's at the old spot. We're having the reunion ride today. 10 bikes so far and more coming. Beatrice looked at her grocery bags. I need to take these home first. I can take them, said a voice from the crowd. A young woman stepped forward. My mom told me all about the Black Thunder Riders. It would be an honor to help. Beatrice smiled at her. Thank you, dear. She handed over the bags. Then she turned back to the leader of the road demons. You said this was your turf now, she said, but you have a lot to learn about what that really means. James looked at the road demons with a steady gaze. So these are the boys making all the noise lately. Riding up and down at all hours, scaring folks. The leader of the road demons crossed his arms. He tried to look tough, but his confidence was shaken. We ride how we want. No one tells us what to do. James shook his head. That kind of thinking is why people hate bikers. That kind of thinking is why we had to work so hard to earn respect. Beatrice nodded. When we started the Black Thunder Riders, people were afraid of us too. But we showed them we were here to help, not hurt. We built trust. The older biker with the gray beard stepped forward again. He seemed troubled. My uncle rode with the Steel Eagles back in the day. He always said a real biker stands for something. Protects the weak. Lives by a code. Your uncle was right, James said. What do you stand for, boy? He looked directly at the leader of the road demons. The leader had no answer. He looked at his boots. More motorcycles could be heard in the distance. The sound grew louder. Around the corner came 5 more classic motorcycles. Each one was old but perfectly kept. The riders were all older men and women. They all wore leather vests with the wing and wheel symbol of the Black Thunder Riders. They pulled up behind James and turned off their engines. One by one, they got off their bikes. There was a tall woman with silver dreadlocks. There was a man with one arm who moved as if he still had 2. There was a couple who must have been in their 70s. There was a large man with kind eyes. They all greeted Beatrice with hugs and warm smiles. Queen Bee, they said with respect. She hugged each one back. The crowd watched in amazement. Most had only heard stories about the Black Thunder Riders. Now they were seeing them in real life. The woman with silver dreadlocks looked at the road demons. "These the troublemakers?" she asked. "Just some young riders who forgot what it means to wear the patch," James said. The leader of the road demons found his voice again. "What do you mean forgot? We earned these patches." The man with one arm laughed. It was not a mean laugh, but it was not kind either. "Earned? What did you do to earn them? Fight? Drink? Break things?" The road demons shifted uncomfortably. That was exactly how they had earned their patches. "In our day," the one-armed man continued, "you earned the patch by proving yourself, by showing courage, by helping the community, by standing for something good." "Times change, old man," the leader said, but his voice was not as strong as before. "Some things should not change," Beatrice said. "Respect, honor, looking out for those who need help." The large man with kind eyes spoke now. His voice was deep and gentle. "You boys ever build a ramp for someone in a wheelchair? Ever escort a child to school who was being bullied? Ever stand guard outside a church that got threatened? Ever ride through a storm to get medicine to an elder?" The road demons were silent. They had done none of these things. "That is how we earned our patches," the large man said. "That is why people in this neighborhood still remember us with respect 50 years later." The crowd nodded. Someone called out, "The Black Thunder Riders helped my family when our house burned down." Another person said, "They kept the gangs away from our schools." James looked at the leader of the road demons. "You say this is your turf now. What have you done to make it better? What have you done to earn the right to be here?" The leader had no answer. Beatrice stepped forward. Her eyes were firm but not unkind. "Maybe it is time you boys learned what being a real biker is about." The older biker with the gray beard looked at Beatrice, then at his own leader. He seemed to be making a decision. "I want to learn," he said suddenly. "I want to know what it really means to earn the patch." The leader of the road demons looked at the gray-bearded biker with surprise. "What are you talking about, Mike? We are real bikers." Mike shook his head. "No, Jake. We just ride bikes and make noise. These people are real bikers." He pointed to the Black Thunder Riders. "They made a difference." Jake looked confused and angry. He was losing control of the situation. He looked at his other friends for support. One of them spoke up. "Mike has a point, Jake. My grandpa used to say bikers had a code. We just do whatever we want." Jake felt trapped. Everything was changing too fast. 10 minutes ago, they were the tough guys making fun of an old lady. Now they were being schooled on what it meant to be real bikers. Beatrice saw the confusion on their faces. Her expression softened. "No one is born knowing these things. We all had to learn. I was just a young girl who wanted to ride fast when I started. I had to learn what it really meant to wear the patch." James nodded. The first Black Thunder Riders were just friends who liked motorcycles. But the times were hard. People needed help. So we stepped up. That is when we became more than just people who rode bikes. The woman with silver dreadlocks spoke again. "We were outsiders. Black bikers were not welcome many places, so we made our own way. We protected our own. Then we protected anyone who needed it." More people from the neighborhood had joined the crowd. They were listening closely to every word. Many were taking pictures and videos with their phones. An old man with a cane pushed through the crowd. He moved slowly but with purpose. When he reached the front, he looked at Beatrice and James with tears in his eyes. "I remember you," he said in a shaky voice. "I remember when those bad men tried to burn down my daddy's store. The police would not come, but the Black Thunder Riders came. You stood guard all night. You saved our family business." James smiled at the old man. "Mr. Thompson, good to see you still kicking. How is that store doing these days?" "My son runs it now," Mr. Thompson said proudly. 3 generations of family business. Would not exist without you all." More people started sharing stories. You all fixed my mama's roof after the big storm. You stood up to those drug dealers who tried to take over the park. You helped me learn to read when the school gave up on me. Each story showed how the Black Thunder Riders had been more than just a motorcycle club. They had been protectors and helpers. They had made the neighborhood better. The road demons listened to the stories with growing understanding. They had never thought about using their group to help others. They had only thought about looking tough and doing what they wanted. Jake looked at his boots for a long time. When he looked up, his face had changed. The anger was gone. He looked at Beatrice with new respect. I never knew bikers could be like that, he said honestly. When I started riding, I just wanted to feel free, to get away from my problems. I never thought about helping others. Beatrice nodded. Freedom is good, but freedom without purpose is just selfishness. Mike, the gray-bearded biker, looked at his road demon's vest. For the first time, he seemed ashamed of the patches. Can you teach us? He asked suddenly. Can you show us what it really means to be bikers with a code? The Black Thunder Riders looked at each other. Some seemed doubtful. Some seemed interested. James looked at Beatrice. It was clear they respected her opinion the most. Queen Bee looked at the young bikers for a long moment. Then she smiled. First lesson, she said. Real bikers respect everyone, especially old ladies waiting at bus stops. The crowd laughed. Even Jake managed a small smile. Second lesson, Beatrice continued. Real bikers prove themselves through actions, not words. What kind of actions? Jake asked. He seemed truly interested now. Beatrice looked around at the crowd. Her eyes fell on a small apartment building across the street. Its front steps were broken. Its gutters were falling down. An old woman was watching them from the window. See that building? Beatrice pointed. Mrs. Jackson lives there. She is 93 years old. Her landlord will not fix anything. Think you boys could handle that? Jake looked at the old apartment building. The paint was peeling. The stairs had broken steps. The gutters hung loose. It looked sad and forgotten. He looked at his fellow road demons. They seemed unsure. They were used to causing trouble, not fixing it. We are not handymen, Jake said slowly. We do not know how to fix steps or gutters. The large Black Thunder Rider with kind eyes stepped forward. I was a carpenter for 40 years. I can show you how. The question is, are you willing to learn? Mike, the gray-bearded biker, nodded right away. I am willing to learn. Two other road demons also nodded. They seemed interested in the challenge. Jake was the only one still holding back. Why should we help fix some old building? Jake asked. His voice was not as harsh as before, but he was still not convinced. Beatrice walked toward the apartment building. Come meet Mrs. Jackson. Then decide if she deserves your help or not. Jake hesitated. Then he followed Beatrice. Mike and the other road demons came too. The Black Thunder Riders watched with interest. They crossed the street to the old apartment building. Beatrice led them up the broken steps carefully. She knocked on the door of the first-floor apartment. After a moment, the door opened. A very old woman stood there. She was tiny with skin like brown paper that had been folded many times. Her white hair was in a neat bun. Her eyes were clear and bright. Beatrice, she said with a smile, what brings you here with all these people? Hello, Mrs. Jackson, Beatrice said warmly. These young men ride motorcycles. They are thinking about fixing your steps and gutters. The landlord still has not done it. Mrs. Jackson shook her head. 3 years of asking. He says he will come. He never does. She looked at the road demons with curious eyes. You boys want to fix my steps. Jake did not know what to say. He had never been in this kind of situation before. He looked at the old woman. She reminded him of someone. Then he realized she looked a bit like his grandmother who had raised him. My grandmother lived in a place like this, Jake said suddenly. The landlord never fixed anything for her either. Mrs. Jackson nodded. They think old people do not matter. They think we can be ignored. Something changed in Jake's face. A memory seemed to come back to him. My grandma fell on broken steps once, broke her hip, never walked right again. Mrs. Jackson pointed to her own hip. I am scared to use those steps. I only go out when I must, for church and doctor visits. The room fell quiet. Jake looked at the old woman for a long time. Then he turned to his fellow road demons. We are fixing those steps today. Mike smiled. The other road demons nodded with new energy. And the gutters, Jake added. Those need fixing too. The Black Thunder Rider, who had been a carpenter, smiled. I can get tools from my truck. I keep a good set with me always. I know where to get wood, another Black Thunder Rider said. My nephew owns a lumber yard. He will donate what we need. Suddenly everyone was talking and planning. The road demons, who had been mocking an old lady just an hour ago, were now excited about helping an even older lady. Mrs. Jackson looked surprised but happy. Would you boys like some lemonade while you work? I made fresh this morning. Yes, ma'am, Jake said politely. That would be nice. They all went back outside to look at what needed to be done. The carpenter Black Thunder Rider showed Jake and the others what tools they would need. He explained how to remove the broken steps and replace them with new ones. Beatrice watched with a small smile. She caught James looking at her with a knowing look. You planned this, he said quietly so only she could hear. Beatrice shrugged. Sometimes people just need a chance to be better than they think they are. The road demons were rolling up their sleeves now. They were taking off their vests and getting ready to work. They looked different. They had purpose in their eyes. First lesson seems to be going well, James said with a smile. Beatrice nodded. Let us see if they can really change. The work on Mrs. Jackson's building continued for hours. The sun moved across the sky as the bikers worked together. The carpenter Black Thunder Rider named Joe showed the road demons how to measure and cut wood. He taught them how to remove the broken steps without damaging the good parts. He showed them how to make the new steps strong and safe. The road demons learned quickly. Jake turned out to be good with his hands. He worked hard and asked smart questions. Mike was strong and could lift heavy things. The youngest road demon named Ricky was careful and precise with measurements. People from the neighborhood came to watch. Some brought food and drinks. Some offered to help. It became like a community event. Children watched with wide eyes as the tough-looking bikers built new steps and fixed gutters. Mrs. Jackson sat in a chair on the sidewalk watching it all. She told stories about the neighborhood from long ago. She remembered when Beatrice and the Black Thunder Riders were young. She told the road demons how the bikers had protected the neighborhood during hard times. There was a big storm in 1975. Mrs. Jackson said. Power was out for a week. The Black Thunder Riders checked on every old person and sick person every day. They brought us food and water and medicine. They lit lanterns at night so the streets would not be dark and dangerous. Jake listened to these stories while he worked. They made him think about what a group like his could do if they wanted to help instead of scare people. As the day went on, more members of the Black Thunder Riders arrived. They had heard about what was happening. Old bikers in their 60s and 70s came to see. Some brought tools. Some brought food. Some brought stories. By late afternoon, the steps were finished. They were strong and even. They had a new handrail that Mrs. Jackson could hold on to when she walked up and down. The gutters were fixed, too. They would carry rain away from the building properly now. Jake stood back to look at their work. His hands were dirty, and he had a cut on one finger. But he was smiling. It was not the mean smile from earlier. It was a real smile that reached his eyes. We did good work, he said to Joe the carpenter. These steps will last for years. Joe nodded. You boys did most of it. I just showed you how. You learned fast. Mrs. Jackson walked up and down the new steps while everyone watched. She held the rail and took each step carefully. When she reached the bottom, she turned to the road demons with tears in her eyes. Thank you, boys. These old legs can go up and down safely now. You are good men. Jake did not know what to say. No one had ever called him a good man before. He felt something strange in his chest. It was pride, but a different kind than he was used to. It was not pride from being tough or scary. It was pride from doing something truly good. Beatrice saw the change in his face. She walked over to Jake. "That feeling you have right now, that is what being a real biker is about. Making things better. Helping those who need it." Jake nodded. "It feels different than I expected." "Better or worse?" Beatrice asked. "Better," Jake admitted. "Much better." The sun was starting to go down now. The day was ending. People started to clean up the tools and leftover materials. Mrs. Jackson invited everyone into her apartment for dinner. "I make a big pot of stew every Sunday. I have plenty for everyone." The small apartment was soon filled with bikers young and old. The road demons sat with the Black Thunder Riders at Mrs. Jackson's table. They talked and laughed together. The tension from earlier was gone. Jake found himself sitting next to Beatrice. He had many questions for her. How did you start riding? Was it hard to be a female biker back then? How did the Black Thunder Riders begin? Beatrice smiled at his questions. "It is a long story, but I will tell you if you really want to know." "I do," Jake said, and he meant it. Beatrice looked at the young man with thoughtful eyes. "You remind me of someone I knew long ago. He started out angry at the world too, but he found a better way to live." "What happened to him?" Jake asked. Beatrice smiled. "He became the first president of the Black Thunder Riders." The next morning, Jake woke up early. He had spent the night thinking about everything that had happened, about Beatrice and the Black Thunder Riders, about the work they had done on Mrs. Jackson's steps, about the stories he had heard. He got on his motorcycle and rode to the Road Demons clubhouse. It was an old warehouse they had taken over. Inside, the other road demons were still sleeping on old couches and mattresses on the floor. Jake looked around at their clubhouse with new eyes. Beer cans and trash were everywhere. The walls were covered with pictures of motorcycles and women in bikinis. Old food sat on paper plates. It smelled bad. He started cleaning up. He picked up trash and put it in bags. He opened windows to let fresh air in. He found a broom and swept the floor. Mike woke up and found Jake cleaning. "What are you doing, man?" "Making this place better," Jake said simply. "It is a pigsty." Mike looked around and seemed to see the mess for the first time. "Yeah, it is pretty bad." He got up and started helping Jake clean. Soon the other road demons woke up. Some were confused by the cleaning. Some joined in to help. By noon, the clubhouse looked much better. Jake called everyone together. The 5 road demons sat on the old couches that now had the trash cleared off them. "I have been thinking," Jake said, "about yesterday, about Beatrice and the Black Thunder Riders, about what a motorcycle club can be." The others listened quietly. They could tell Jake was serious. "We started the road demons to be free, to ride together, to be brothers. But all we do is make noise and scare people and drink beer." Jake paused. "I think we can be more than that." Mike nodded. "I think so too. What those old bikers did for their neighborhood, that was something real." The youngest road demon, Ricky, spoke up. "My mom was real happy when I told her we fixed that old lady's steps. First time she ever been proud of my riding." Jake smiled at that. "Beatrice invited us to meet them this afternoon. They are having a barbecue at the community center. They want to show us some things about riding and about their history." The road demons all agreed to go. They got on their motorcycles and rode to the community center. They were nervous but excited too. When they arrived, they saw many motorcycles parked outside. Classic bikes from the 60s and 70s, modern sport bikes, even a few 3-wheelers for older riders who needed more stability. Inside, the community center was decorated with old photographs and newspaper articles. They showed the history of the Black Thunder Riders. There were pictures of civil rights marches with bikers providing protection. Pictures of bikers delivering toys at Christmas. Pictures of bikers teaching kids about motorcycle safety. Beatrice greeted them at the door. She wore her leather vest over a simple blue dress. Her badge shined on her chest. "Welcome, boys," she said with a warm smile. "Come meet everyone properly." She introduced them to the Black Thunder Riders. There were about 20 older bikers. Some were in their 60s, some were in their 70s, a few were even older. There was James, the vice president. There was Joe, the carpenter. There was Maria with the silver dreadlocks, who had been a nurse. There was Big Pete, who had been a teacher. Each one had a story. Each one had skills beyond riding motorcycles. The road demons shook hands with everyone. They were shown the photos and told the stories behind them. They learned about the history of black bikers in America. They learned about the challenges the Black Thunder Riders had faced and overcome. Outside in the parking lot, Joe showed them how to take care of their bikes properly, how to change oil and adjust chains, how to make a motorcycle last for decades. Maria told them about first aid, how to help if someone crashed or got hurt. She had treated many injuries in her years as a riding nurse. James taught them about road safety, how to ride in groups safely, how to watch out for each other, how to deal with bad drivers without losing their tempers. But the best part was when Beatrice took them to a locked room at the back of the community center. She unlocked the door with a key she kept on a chain around her neck. Inside was her 1957 Harley-Davidson Panhead. It was perfect. The black paint gleamed. The chrome sparkled. It looked like it had just come from the factory, even though it was almost 70 years old. "This is my baby," Beatrice said with pride. "I have kept her running all these years." The road demons stared in amazement. None of them had ever seen such a perfectly kept classic motorcycle. "Can you still ride it?" Ricky asked with wide eyes. Beatrice smiled. "Every Sunday, rain or shine." Jake looked at the motorcycle with respect. Then he looked at Beatrice with even more respect. "Will you teach us?" he asked. "Not just about motorcycles, but about everything, about being real bikers." Beatrice looked at the young man thoughtfully. "It will not be easy. It will take time and commitment." "Are you sure?" Jake nodded firmly. "I am sure. We all are." The other road demons nodded in agreement. Beatrice smiled. "Then lessons begin tomorrow." 6 months passed since that day at the bus stop. The neighborhood had changed in many ways. The biggest change was in the road demons. They no longer called themselves the Road Demons. With Beatrice's blessing, they had taken a new name. They were now the New Thunder Riders. Their vests had a new patch that mixed their old symbol with the Black Thunder Riders' wing and wheel. Their clubhouse had changed too. They had cleaned it completely. They had painted the walls. They had fixed the roof and the plumbing. They had turned the back room into a workshop where they could work on motorcycles. Most importantly, they had changed how they used their time and their skills. Following the example of the Black Thunder Riders, they had become helpers, not troublemakers. On this sunny Saturday morning, Jake stood in front of the New Thunder Riders clubhouse. Next to him stood Beatrice. They were watching as a group of kids from the neighborhood learned about motorcycle safety. Mike was showing them how to wear helmets properly. Ricky was explaining the parts of a motorcycle engine using a model he had built. "They are good teachers," Beatrice said with approval. "Those kids are really listening." Jake nodded with pride. "We learned from the best." Down the street, Mrs. Jackson was walking up her still perfect steps. She waved at Jake and Beatrice. They waved back. "How are the motorcycle safety classes going at the high school?" Beatrice asked. "Really good," Jake said. "The principal says accidents are down 50% since we started teaching kids how to ride safely. And the neighborhood watch program. We have 10 blocks covered now. Crime is way down. People feel safe again." Beatrice smiled with pride. "You boys have done more in 6 months than I thought possible." Jake looked embarrassed, but pleased by her praise. "We had a lot to make up for. And good teachers to show us the way." A motorcycle pulled up in front of the clubhouse. It was James on his classic Harley. "You two ready?" he asked. "The others are waiting at the community center. The reunion ride starts in an hour." Beatrice nodded. "We will be right there." She turned to Jake. "You sure your boys are ready for this? The annual Black Thunder Riders reunion ride is a big deal." Jake smiled confidently. "We have been practicing for months. We can keep up." The annual reunion ride was a 50-mile ride through the city and countryside. It was a chance for all the Black Thunder Riders, past and present, to ride together. This year, for the first time, the new Thunder Riders would join them. "It is not about keeping up," Beatrice said. "It is about riding with pride and purpose, about showing people what real bikers look like." "We understand that now," Jake said seriously. "6 months ago, I thought being a biker was about looking tough and making noise. Now I know it is about community and respect, and helping others." Beatrice nodded with approval. She had watched these young men change from troublemakers to community leaders. It had not been easy. There had been setbacks and arguments. Some old habits had been hard to break, but they had stuck with it. "Go get your bike," she said. "I need to get mine from my garage." Jake grinned. "You bringing the panhead?" "Of course," Beatrice said with a wink. "Got to show you young ones how it is done." An hour later, more than 50 motorcycles lined up outside the community center. In front were the original Black Thunder Riders on their classic bikes. Beatrice sat proudly on her 1957 panhead. Behind them were younger riders who had joined over the years. At the back were the new Thunder Riders on their modern motorcycles, freshly washed and polished. People from the neighborhood lined the streets to watch them start their ride. Children waved excitedly. Old people smiled with pride. James gave the signal, and the engines roared to life. Beatrice led the way as she had for more than 50 years. The sound of 50 motorcycles filled the air as they moved as one unit down the street. Jake rode at the front of the new Thunder Riders. As they passed the bus stop where it had all started 6 months ago, he smiled at the memory. How different things would be if they had just kept riding that day instead of stopping to mock an old lady. That old lady had changed their lives. She had shown them that age was just a number, that respect had to be earned, that being tough meant nothing if you did not use that toughness to help others. As they rode through the city, people stopped to watch and wave. Many recognized the Black Thunder Riders from stories and legends. Some were surprised to see the former road demons riding with them as the new Thunder Riders. At a stoplight, a young boy looked up at Beatrice with wide eyes. "Are you really Queen Bee?" he asked with awe. Beatrice smiled down at him. "I sure am, little man." "My grandpa says you are the best rider ever," the boy said. "He says you helped make this neighborhood good." "I had lots of help," Beatrice said. She looked back at the long line of bikers behind her, including Jake and the new Thunder Riders. "And now we have even more." The light changed, and the motorcycles moved forward again. Beatrice led the way, sitting tall and proud on her panhead. At 78 years old, she still rode with more skill and grace than riders half her age. Jake watched her with respect and admiration. She had taught him so much. About riding, about life, about what it meant to be part of a community. The motorcycles thundered down the street as one united group. The Black Thunder Riders and the new Thunder Riders. The past and the future riding together with pride and purpose. And leading them all was Queen Bee, the helpless old lady who had turned out to be the strongest person Jake had ever met.